Okay, let's dive deep into something that's really shifted from sci-fi to everyday life. The whole era of AI surveillance.
Hmm.
We've gathered quite a bit of material here, articles, research, some pretty detailed notes, all zeroing in on how AI isn't just, a tool we use anymore.
Right. It's actively watching
Right.
and learning.
So the mission today, for you listening, is to unpack what's really going on here. What does this constant AI presence mean well, for our privacy, our freedom, our future?
It's fundamental stuff, really. Affects pretty much everyone online today.
And you probably bump into it dozens of times a day without even, like, registering it. I mean, your phone knows exactly where you are.
Constantly.
Your smart TV keeps tabs on your viewing habits. Fitness tracker monitors your body. You talk to a voice assistant. It's listening.
And behind every single one of those interactions, there's an AI processing that data,
Yeah.
learning from it.
Yeah, the sources we looked at put it bluntly. AI is watching you, and it's learning fast.
It's not just hyperbole. That's basically the operational model now.
So how did we get here? What's the technical engine behind this surveillance AI boom?
Well, the foundation is just sheer scale. Modern AI absolutely thrives on big data,
Meaning.
meaning the incredible flood of information that billions of us generate every single second. Every click, like, scroll, swipe, it all feeds the beast, so to speak.
And it's not just sitting there, it's being actively used, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This huge amount of data gets funneled into machine learning algorithms.
Right.
And these aren't like old software that just follows orders.
They learn.
Exactly. They're designed to find patterns in the data. The more data they chew through, the better they get at spotting those patterns, making connections, predicting things. They effectively train themselves.
Can you give us some concrete examples? What does this AI surveillance look like on the ground, according to the sources?
Okay, a really big one is facial recognition. The sources talk a lot about its use in places like China, with these vast AI-powered CCTV networks,
Doing what exactly?
identifying people in real time, tracking where they go, even flagging behavior the system decides is, quote, unusual.
Wow.
But it's not just over there. The sources name companies like Clearview AI that have scraped billions of images from social media, or your photos, potentially, to build massive databases
Scraped from social media? For who?
for law enforcement, but also private companies. It's controversial, obviously.
Yeah, that feels like a huge jump from just getting movie recommendations.
It is. And that's a critical point the sources make. What started as, personalization, Netflix suggestions, tailored ads, has kind of morphed
Morphed into what?
into what one source explicitly calls a mechanism of mass surveillance.
Okay, that phrase definitely lands differently. It's not just convenience anymore.
Not solely, no. It suggests the data collection serves purposes far beyond just improving your user experience.
Which brings us to the next big question. What is the AI actually figuring out about us from all this watching?
Right. And this is where it gets, well, maybe a bit unnerving. It's not just logging what you do, it's inferring really personal stuff about you.
How so? What kind of stuff?
Algorithms are getting scarily good at predicting things you'd think are private, just from your digital traces. The sources mention things like your personality type, your political views, even signs of your mental health state.
All from online activity.
Yeah, or from analyzing your facial expressions through a camera, the way you type, speed, rhythm, even the tone of your voice. Some systems claim they can detect lies or guess things like sexuality or income level.
Just based on clicks and swipes? That seems wild.
It's based on the patterns those clicks and swipes create when aggregated across millions of data points.
The level of detail they can pull from just living online, it feels, I don't know, deeply intrusive. And one thing that really stood out from the sources was how little data it apparently takes.
Yes. That's the efficiency or maybe the power of these algorithms. You'd think it needs tons of info, but one source stated, a few dozen likes on Facebook can reveal more about you than your close friends know.
Wait, really? More than close friends?
That's the claim. Think about that. A handful of clicks potentially offering deeper insights than someone you actually know well.
Okay, that's something.
And it's similar with location data. Just a few weeks from your phone can apparently map your daily routine, your favorite spots, maybe even hint at relationships based on where you frequently meet others.
So it's not just a record of the past, it's building a predictive model of me.
That's exactly it. Based on your browsing, your shopping, your searches, your social media buzz, the AI isn't just reflecting what you did, it's getting remarkably good at predicting what you'll likely do next.
And this predictive power, like we said, often gets framed as just making things smoother for us, right? Personalization.
Correct. That's the selling point.
Yeah.
Personalized ads, tailored news feeds, smart recommendations everywhere, convenience.
But the sources keep hammering this double-edged sword idea. If convenience is one edge, what's the other?
The other edge is when that deep understanding isn't just used to reflect your preferences, but to actively nudge or shape your behavior.
How does that work?
Take social media algorithms again. Their main goal is engagement, keeping your eyeballs glued to the screen.
Right, keep you scrolling.
And what often drives the most engagement? Content that sparks strong emotions. Anger, fear, outrage. The AI learns this, so it might prioritize showing you stuff that gets a rise out of you.
Which feeds the cycle, because you react, giving it more data.
Exactly. It's a feedback loop.
So that's why the sources argue it's not just curation.
Precisely. They frame it as behavioral manipulation.
Yeah.
It's not neutral. It has consequences. The sources point directly to political manipulation,
Such as?
like using these algorithms to push highly targeted propaganda or misinformation during election cycles, tailored to exploit individual psychological profiles. The Cambridge Analytica situation is cited, obviously.
Right, I remember that.
And there's also the issue of algorithmic radicalization, where platforms might inadvertently guide users towards more and more extreme content because that's what keeps them engaged.
So the AI isn't just passively learning from us anymore.
It's starting to actively shape us. That's the shift the sources really highlight.
And a massive issue here, which comes up again and again in the material, is the sheer lack of transparency.
Absolutely fundamental. Most of us have, frankly, no real clue what specific data is being collected, how algorithms are using it, or who ends up seeing the profiles built from it.
The systems themselves are described as opaque.
Yeah, black boxes. That term comes up a lot. Sometimes even the creators don't fully understand every nuance of how they arrive at a decision.
Which means you're being watched, analyzed, maybe even influenced by mechanisms you can't see or understand.
Let alone control. It creates a huge power imbalance
Between who?
between the big tech companies and governments deploying this tech and the individuals subjected to it. There's very little effective oversight.
And these aren't trivial applications. The sources say AI is making really critical decisions about people's lives.
That's right. Things like who gets shortlisted for a job, who gets approved for a loan, even who gets flagged as a potential security risk.
And this is where the bias issue gets really serious, isn't it?
Crucially, yes, because these AI systems learn from data generated by humans in our messy, biased world.
So if the data has biases,
The AI learns those biases. It doesn't just replicate them. Often, the sources warn, it amplifies them
leading to what?
to real-world discrimination.
Yeah.
Unfairness in hiring, biased policing outcomes, unequal access to things like healthcare, all potentially driven by biased algorithms.
So the question becomes, what happens when your future, your opportunities, are being shaped by a system that's invisible, potentially unfair, and that you can't question or appeal?
It's a deeply troubling question. It really throws that power imbalance into sharp relief.
And this whole situation isn't static. The AI itself is constantly evolving, learning faster and faster.
Right? Unlike traditional software, these systems improve over time just by running, by consuming more data. And the pace of development now is just staggering.
Things that used to take years.
Can now be achieved in weeks or months, according to the sources, especially with these huge new models, like the ones powering ChatGPT and similar tools.
We're seeing crazy new abilities pop up all the time.
Totally. AI generating photorealistic images, deep fakes that can convincingly mimic anyone's voice or face, systems that learn complex tasks with very little human guidance.
And that old sci-fi idea, artificial general intelligence, AGI, an AI that could do any intellectual task a human can.
The sources suggest that while we're not there yet, the current trajectory is accelerating us towards it much faster than maybe we anticipated.
So more learning means more capability, more autonomy.
Definitely. The trend line is clear.
Which leads us straight into a major moral quandary, doesn't it? We're surrounded by these watching, learning, influencing machines.
They're in our pockets, our homes, our cities, often invisible, always on, and getting smarter. It forces us to ask some really tough ethical questions.
Like the ones raised in the sources.
Yeah, like, should AI systems make life or death decisions? Hiring, firing, maybe even sentencing in court? Is it okay for companies to profit so massively from our intimate digital lives, potentially manipulating us along the way?
And what about government surveillance? How much is too much, even for safety?
These aren't questions with easy black and white answers,
No, definitely not.
but the need to wrestle with them is becoming incredibly urgent because the sources really drive this home. The more AI watches us, the more we need to watch it.
Okay, so it sounds pretty intense. Is there actually anything we can do? Can we push back, reclaim some control?
The sources are cautiously optimistic, actually. They suggest, yes, fighting back is possible, but it takes effort, awareness, regulation, maybe even some resistance.
What kind of strategies are we talking about?
Several key things. First, demanding transparency, like forcing companies to open up about how their algorithms work, what data they're using, how key decisions get made.
Trying to peek inside that black box.
Essentially, yes. Make the invisible a bit more visible. Second, regulation. Governments need to step up, create real legal guardrails. The EU's AI Act is mentioned as a start, but it's a global issue.
What about us as individuals?
Digital literacy. Hugely important. We all need a better understanding of how this tech works and how it affects us. Education is key, especially for kids growing up immersed in this.
And the tech creators, what's their role?
A big one. Ethical AI. Building ethics in from the ground up. That means things like bias audits, fairness checks, clear accountability when things go wrong. It can't be an afterthought.
And making sure we're not just forced into being tracked.
Exactly. Real opt-out options. We need genuine choices to say no to certain data collection or algorithmic manipulation, not buried in fine print or impossible to find.
So the overall aim is to rebalance that power dynamic.
That's the core idea. Shift some power back from the big platforms and governments to the individuals whose data fuels the whole system.
Okay, so looping back to the start. AI is watching you and it's learning fast. That's not a future warning.
It's just now. It's the present. But it's also important, and the sources touch on this too, not to paint AI as purely negative. It has incredible potential for good.
Like what?
Helping cure diseases, revolutionizing education, tackling climate change, maybe even helping us understand ourselves better.
But that positive potential depends
On us guiding it consciously, with ethics, with foresight, with oversight. We can't just, as one source puts it, sleepwalk into a future controlled by systems we don't understand.
Right. The main message seems to be, the surveillance age is here, yes, but awareness is the first step towards shaping it responsibly.
And the sources pose a direct challenge to you, the listener. So the next time your phone makes an eerily accurate suggestion, ask yourself who's really in control.
It's a good question. And they leave us with that really striking image because the eyes of AI are open and they never blink.
Yeah. And the final thought, straight from the source material for you to really chew on is this. The rise of AI may be inevitable, but how it shapes our world is still up to us. Will we choose convenience at the cost of privacy? Will we hand over power without questioning the price? Or will we stand up, demand accountability, and shape an intelligent future that serves us all?
Powerful questions. And that final line really sticks with you. The clock is ticking and AI is listening.